Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show. Is that what we're calling this?
Yeah, tentatively for now, at least.
Everything is Bad New Fangled Picture Show.
New Fangled Picture Show.
Alright. I'm Niall.
And I'm Nolan.
And we're going to be discussing Alien Covenant.
Yep. Because we're going in alphabetical order. Our next movie is going to have to be Avengers.
Alright.
Yeah,
it was good.
Well, let's start.
Review done.
We're gonna give a spoiler-free review, and then a spoiler warning, and then we'll discuss some things in more detail. So if you're not interested in that, you can stop watching after our warning. Alright. Yeah, I liked it.
Yep.
I'd rank it number 3 in my Alien movies.
Yeah. So I like it, because it. So my biggest problem I think I had with Prometheus is it left us with more questions than it answered.
Yeah, and well, that was on purpose, I'm sure. Especially the nature of the questions are big philosophical questions and all, but or at least attempting to be. But Ridley Scott had planned out at least a trilogy. At least a prequel trilogy, right?
But so Alien Covenant actually answers a lot of the questions that Prometheus left us with.
Right. It still doesn't fully bridge the gap to Alien.
Right.
Some stuff is going to have to happen in the next possibly 2 movies. 1, or if you believe some rumors, 2 to 3 movies. That hasn't been locked down yet, I don't think. At least 1 more movie.
Right.
Has been written.
That's fine as long as Michael Fassbender.
Yes, so Michael Fassbender once again proves that he is the best actor in the cast.
Yep.
He is
yeah
so good in this movie.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's like little things too, like little facial tics and facial expressions that he uses that
yeah,
they're just really
well, we'll get more into Michael Fassbender's role in this movie in the spoiler part of the review.
Right. Effects wise, because I come from that side of things, and they were all pretty good, but there were a few, I don't know if you noticed, there were a few times when you could tell something was CG.
Yeah.
Particularly on the I think they called it a neomorph. The
hold on. I saw, keep talking. Let me see if I found a chart about this.
It's the creatures that appear early on in the film. That are they're closer to what we saw in Prometheus than what the xenomorph ultimately winds up being. And like their life cycle comes from like the spores or the black goop, and then the thing just bursts out of them. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that people die from aliens bursting out of them. They're like this white. They look a lot like the xenomorph, but they're still closer to what we saw in Prometheus.
Yeah.
And there's some moments there which are like, that's CG.
There's also one moment where you could really tell it was a puppet.
Yeah.
And it's like, on the one hand, I looked at that and went, I appreciate that they're doing a puppet. But on the other hand, I looked at that and went, but I could totally tell that's a puppet, so it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right. Even still, they had guys in suits in this.
Yes.
There was an actor in the xenomorph suit, that one that we see in the trailer,
where he's smashing his head into the window.
Yeah. Well, that was a prop head smashing into fake glass.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, the guy crawling over the ship, that was a dude in a suit. And there's another adult neomorph. Like I said, I think they're calling them neomorphs.
Yeah, hold on. Keep talking. I'm gonna move the mic here real quick because I gotta get closer to the keyboard. I found somewhere, and I'm trying to remember. I saw it on Facebook, so I'm trying to find where it was. But I found a place that had a chart of the life cycle of the xenomorph, and then the 2 creatures that come before the Xenomorph, the one that was at the end of Prometheus.
The one they called the Deacon.
The Deacon.
They called that the Deacon, I believe.
At the end of Prometheus, and then these new white ones that are sort of between the Deacon and the Xenomorph.
Right. So there's an adult one of those that was a guy in a suit, and there was a guy in that suit. So I mean, I appreciate they went back to that for some things, but they definitely used the whole box of tricks. They had puppets and prosthetics and rubber suits and CGI. And I think they used them where they were most effective. Ridley Scott's an old school sort of director, so he's been around the block, so he knows what he's doing. And that's another thing. And like, again, this is a Ridley Scott movie, so there's just like these great, just wonderful shots, like these huge wide shots of things. Even interiors have massive wide shots in a lot of cases, except for like aboard the spaceships where it's tight and claustrophobic like you're used to from Alien. And it definitely has a feel closer to Alien in a lot of ways than it did to Prometheus. In certain parts.
Yeah, I'm not finding that picture, man. If I see it again, we'll get it posted up on the screen. I'm just not finding it right now.
Anyway, yeah. So it's like it looks beautiful. Like Ridley Scott movies always look beautiful anyway. And
yeah,
with just the attention to detail and the lighting and everything, and then as far as characters go, like once again, Michael Fassbender was great.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender stole the show.
Everyone else did a passable job, and then
moving the mic. It's gonna sound awesome, I'm sure.
Everyone else did a passable job, I think, and then nobody gave a bad performance.
No one was bad.
There were some character. With the cast as large as it is, there's not going to be that much development. And once like any other Alien movie, it's going to get down to one or two surviving characters at the very end.
Yep.
And so that's how it was in this one as well.
Yep. Yeah, like I mean, I really enjoyed the movie. There were my honestly my biggest complaint about it was the guns. And I don't.
Most people, this isn't going to be
right.
No, and I don't think it's going to bother most people.
Yeah, so
you got to be a gun guy to.
Yeah, so this movie takes place in 2180
something, 2190 something.
Is it that far enough?
I don't know. Yeah, it's 10 years after Prometheus and 20 years before Alien. They've established that in the timeline.
When does Alien Covenant take place? There we go.
Oh yeah, you don't even have to tape. When does A, and then that's what pops up.
But anyway, so.
Oh yeah, I saw this article.
The Verge. It's just telling me when things take place in reference to each other. Oh wait, here we go. Alien takes place 2 decades after Alien Covenant in 2122. Oh wait, okay. Yeah, so Prometheus, 2104. Yeah, okay, so Prometheus takes place in 2093. Alien Covenant takes place in 2104.
Okay.
Alright. So here's
earlier than I thought.
Yeah, so here's my complaint about the guns, though. I don't think this is a spoiler to tell you what kind of guns they're using, because I'm pretty sure they were all over the trailer anyway. So the year's 2104.
Mm-hmm.
They have part of the crew is a security detail, to protect them from.
Yes, the crew they're all colonists, which we know.
Right.
But part of the crew are civilian scientists and engineers, and part of the crew are military.
Right. They have ranks and stuff, but they really came off to me as like mercenaries, like PMC types,
Yeah, but they're part of the colony mission.
Right. And they're basically just there to provide security from whatever might be out there,
Mm-hmm.
also to provide a convenient vessel for us to get guns into the movie. But
Right, because Alien they didn't have any guns. They were just
they were
space truckers, as everyone likes to call them. But...
Exactly. So here's my complaint. So the movie takes place 2104. So the team is equipped with 2 different weapon platforms, an AR-15 platform, appeared to be M4s of various lengths. They were fully auto, and then Steyr AUGs. And so, almost 100 years in the future, the idea that we're still using the AR-15 platform, which right now is about almost 60 years old, I think. And then from like what we know as the AR-15 platform to now, I think it's like almost 60 years. The Steyr AUG is a pretty similar lifespan so far, and we're still using them almost 100 years in the future, and I don't have a problem with that. Because they've lasted this long, and we just keep improving them. The problem I have is that there's how long between Alien Covenant and Alien?
20 years.
All right, and there's how long between Alien and Aliens?
57 years.
All right, so almost 80 years. So 100 years in the future, we're still using these same weapons. Then the span of 80 years, we go from AR-15s to pulse rifles. That's what bothers me. I kind of wish they had made some prop guns that somehow looked like they were bridged a gap between modern assault rifles and the pulse rifles.
You gotta look for that, and I don't know if this is getting away from the review a little bit. I don't know if it belongs in the more discussion area, but Ridley Scott's whole philosophy, as far as the Alien movies go, is ground it in reality as much as possible.
Yep.
Which explains why even in like these movies that take place decades earlier, their monitors are like these touch screens and like touch screens and LED or LCD monitors and everything when they were using CTR monitors in Alien, because that's what the technology is of now. That's what we know.
CRT monitors and their computer systems were like DOS based looking,
right, and vector graphics and stuff. So anyway, but everything's grounded in reality, so it's like use familiar things, and so that's what he did. I think they probably could have done more to doctor up the guns so they weren't as readily recognizable for what they were underneath.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if that's something that would be super recognizable to most people, but
right.
They were handing them out in that first.
Right, and so to be fair, that isn't exactly the Steyr. Oh, that's the new version that's going to be rolled out for the Australian military.
Right, but it's still the same.
It's basic platform. It still very much looks the same. And
and I mean those
off of that.
Those might have been H&K 416s, which is the probably the most advanced like mass market AR platform out there. But still, it's just like something that's a very like modern right now gun.
Yeah. Well, your other issue you had mentioned is that why would they have more than one platform?
Right, and that's the other thing too, is it makes no sense for this colony mission to bother with more than one platform of firearm. Now they both use the same ammo and they both even take the same magazines, but you're going to need spare parts. You're going to have accessories that are designed for one as well as accessories that are designed for the other. So it makes no sense, because on a spaceship you're going to want to save weight, you're going to want to save space. So it would make the most sense to just pick one, so you only have to have one set of spare parts.
Right.
But I mean, other than that, I really, as far as like the movie aspect, the story it told, and the effects and everything was really great.
Yeah, it was.
I kind of wish. I don't know how well it's doing. We're recording this on the Saturday.
I saw it on the premiere on Thursday.
Yeah. We're recording this the Saturday of the release weekend, so we don't know yet what ticket sales are going to look like. But man, if Thursday night was any indication, they're not going to look great.
Yeah,
for a movie that cost that much money to make,
111 million, I think it was.
Yeah, and there was only there's only 4 2 IMAX and 2 regular showings at the theater.
Mm-hmm. And then you got to think about
that night.
Their promotions might even be more than what you would normally, because they
made 2 short films.
They made 2 short films that were trailers.
Right.
That were prologues. That one that's called The Last Supper, that has everyone gathered around for the last drink before going into hypersleep. None of that footage is in the movie. That is 100% a short film made.
Bit of a spoiler.
Yeah, okay, a little bit of a spoiler, but I mean the movie picks up during the voyage.
Right.
But I mean, there's another short film that actually I think that might have been released after that quite a bit of that actually was in the movie though.
Yeah.
The other one.
Yeah, but so because I mean for Prometheus they had the Wayland TED Talk.
That was really cool.
I loved that because they set up Ridley Scott did a really good job of setting up this world as like something that is grounded, like I mean, like you say, he grounds everything in reality. So he's trying to tie in, this like thing that actually happens. These TED Talks, and Wayland giving this speech, and all that, and it was great, and that had to have cost them next to nothing to make, other than paying the I can't remember the actor's name.
Guy Pearce.
Other than paying Guy Pearce to deliver that speech in front of half a dozen cameras.
There was also that one.
There was really, and then
there was the one that was the ad for David.
Oh yeah, and then the ad for David was really great. That one would have taken a lot more effects to do, just because it was like that whole assembly line thing and all that.
Right, but it was shorter.
It was a lot shorter.
So they wouldn't have had to pay. They wouldn't have had to pay Michael Fassbender that much.
Right, but I mean, there was basically no effects that went into the TED Talk one. So,
that's true.
That's the other thing. But so I mean, the ad campaign for this was great. But yeah, I could see them having spent more than the average movie on the ad campaign for this one. Yeah, well,
they say that the ad campaign usually costs as much as the movie.
Yeah.
So we're looking at $222 million that they need to recoup.
Yep.
And if they don't, then we're not likely to get a sequel. Although, I wonder how much of it is hurt by Prometheus. Like, people didn't like Prometheus in general.
Yeah, Prometheus.
And so I wonder if people are like, I don't want to see that.
I know one person who really likes Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And I mean, we know a lot of people that really like the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
I know one person who really likes Prometheus.
And I'm hoping that it's just that people want to see it, but they didn't want to go opening nights. They're going this weekend.
Right.
I wanted to do well, because one thing, I did like the movie, and I want the sequels.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. I mean, Prometheus, for this movie to get greenlit, Prometheus must have done well enough.
I think it did really well opening weekend, and then fell off when people went to work or went, to their family and friends, and they were like, "Oh, hey, you saw Prometheus? How was it?" And you confusing?
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw Prometheus opening night. I don't think you were there, because this is back when they were still showing premieres of movies at midnight.
Right, and I had work.
Not at 7 p.m.
I have responsibilities.
Right, I was in college, so and so we went opening night, and it was packed.
Yeah, it was an Alien movie. People, I mean, it wasn't called Alien, but people knew it was an Alien movie. Some people didn't. But people who are fans of Alien knew that it was. I mean,
I actually, my coworker, found out like this week that Prometheus is an Alien movie.
I bet I know which coworker this is.
Yeah, I bet you do. I bet you do.
Had he seen Prometheus?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, I would assume that if he had seen Prometheus, it would have dawned on him that it was, though.
Yeah, I should hope so.
Okay.
But yeah, so
yeah,
Prometheus, I think Prometheus did hurt, and I'm hoping that everyone goes back and tells their friends and coworkers and stuff goes, man, because that's what I did. I went into work on Friday and went in today and was like, man, dude, Alien Covenant was great. I really enjoyed that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't silence my phone.
Apparently not. All right. So I think that's enough of a review. Why don't we give a spoiler warning here?
Put a spoiler warning.
Yeah, I'll splash it across the screen. We're gonna get more in depth into the movie and discuss things about the movie that are full of spoilers. We're warning you right now. Spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, don't continue listening.
If you don't want spoilers, why the hell haven't you seen the movie yet?
Also a good question, but I mean, they might have come just for a review.
Yeah,
we'll see. Anyway, all right. So more in-depth discussion where we will have spoilers.
So Fassbender.
So he plays both David and Walter. So
I don't know why I couldn't remember his name while watching the movie. It was like
his name is
Wilson, Wilfred,
Winnipeg.
Yeah, so
Walter. So he's
not just playing two androids. He's playing two very different androids.
Different personalities. So we all know David. It had been brought up in Prometheus. David is far too human, right?
Yep.
So between the events of Prometheus and Alien Covenant, it was decided that that version of that android was too human and made people uncomfortable.
Yep.
So they toned him down a little bit, and he has less freedom, less individuality, and so as a result, he's much more robotic.
The key thing that they point out in the movie is he cannot create.
Right. And so that's an obsession of David's, is that he cannot create life.
Right, but he can create. I mean, David can create music and stuff, and poetry, but he can't create life.
Right.
Walter can't create at all. He's not allowed to have independent, unique thought.
Right. And it also doesn't seem to bother him that he doesn't.
Right.
Whereas David is severely bothered that he cannot create life.
Yes.
And that was a whole subplot for his motivations in Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but in this, whereas David is very English. Like he's trying, like, well, I had forgotten about this. It's been a while since I've seen Prometheus, but during the voyage to that planet, David's trying to while away years and years by himself. He's watching Lawrence of Arabia, and he takes a liking to Peter O'Toole.
Yep.
And so he bleaches his hair blonde and styles it to look like Peter O'Toole, and he takes on Peter O'Toole's very distinct accent. He has a very proper British accent, and so David speaks like that, whereas Walter has this like almost kind of quasi-Texan accent.
Well, yeah,
a little bit. It sounds like a British person trying to imitate.
Well, what it sounded like to me, and I mentioned this to you when we saw the movies. To me, it sounded like Michael Fassbender doing his best impression of Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And
yeah, his speech pattern was like that. It was because he was very robotic. Whereas like David moves with this like unnatural grace.
Yeah.
And then Walter moves very robotically, and it's like this
are like square and level with the ground the whole
time.
And
it's like this very conservation of movement thing going on. And from the both of them, but it's a different way. Like David's more graceful and Walter's more mechanical.
Yep.
And so is their speech pattern and everything. So they're very different characters, which is very interesting.
But they're both Fassbender.
They're both Michael Fassbender, and they interact with each other.
Yes.
Physically touch each other. They even, like, David kisses Walter in a very uncomfortable scene. It's more than just two guys kissing. That's not what's uncomfortable about those two guys kissing. It's like Walter is sitting there like, I don't know what's going on, and then like David kisses him, and it's there's several scenes. Like at one point, David kisses the main actress. I can't remember her name. She was in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. She was the main chick in that. I can't remember. he kisses her, and she's like really uncomfortable by it, and he's like pulls back. He's like, "Is that how it's done?"
Yeah.
You know, and it's so awkward because it's like this robot trying to figure out human stuff.
Yeah. And yeah. So David feels emotion on some level, apparently, whereas Walter doesn't, and to the point where David thinks he loved
Rooney or Shaw was her
Shaw.
name. Rooney,
Yeah, Dr. Shaw.
Something.
And he showed her his love for her by making her the first victim of a chest burster.
Right. So yeah, David engineers the life form.
They show up. They show up on this engineer planet.
Catherine Watterson was that actress.
That's name. Right. So they show up.
Later, I think she's more attractive with long hair. That's for sure.
Yes, she is.
She wasn't like unattractive, but she was really plain looking. And
yeah. So they show up on on the space jockey planet on a space jockey ship, and
he unleashes the alien pathogen on it.
Yeah, he unleashes the alien pathogen, which is their virus bomb that I guess they had engineered to wipe out all sentient life on a planet.
Yeah, so then they could terraform it,
or space jockey form it.
Yeah,
because terraform
implies
making similar to Terra.
Well, it was similar to Terra because it's implied that they terraformed Earth.
Oh yeah,
and Earth, but they didn't wipe out the sentient life, or humans are descended from them in some way, evolved from them.
I don't remember
that. I think that was implied, but it wasn't made clear. Anyway,
but yeah, so he drops the alien virus bomb on this planet and wipes out all the space jockeys, wipes out all the animal life, and that was what was that particular alien life form? What was that called?
The neomorph.
The neomorph.
I believe so. So it's basically unchanged from what we saw in Prometheus. It's those canisters, with the black liquid
that vaporizes in the air.
It vaporizes, and then you breathe it in, and then you have something burst out of you and kill you.
Right. It doesn't like burst out of your chest like a chest burster. It just claws a way out of you.
Right. So over the 10 years that they're on that planet, or David's on that planet, he and the whole time Shaw is in cryosleep most of that time, I believe. I don't believe she was awake when they arrived on the planet. I
don't think they implied one way or another, did they?
I don't know, but my guess is that she would not have been okay with David doing that, so I don't think she knew.
Yeah.
Because it shows that she went into cryosleep before their journey from the planet, from Prometheus, like LV-223, or I don't remember.
It's 223.
Was it?
I think so.
To that planet, with the space jockey homeworld, or engineer homeworld.
Space jockeys.
I don't know why that name is what stuck. It wasn't like the giant alien creature in Alien was like riding a horse in the derelict spacecraft. But anyway, so yeah, he through genetic manipulation and
interbreeding.
Yeah, breeding and selective breeding and stuff. He engineers it into the xenomorph form as we know it.
You keep bumping that mic, dude.
Well, sorry. He engineers into the xenomorph form as we know it from Alien. Right. And
face hugger, chest burster.
Right, and considering that the life cycle is so fast, like a generation can happen in hours, that's feasible.
Yeah.
Like to be able to engineer, evolve something that rapidly when generations happen in a matter of hours. So he evolves it so you have an egg, you have a face hugger, you have a chest burster, and then you have the adult alien. But in this, they grow so fast. Like in Alien, that chest burster jumps onto Kane.
Yep.
Or face hugger jumps onto Kane. A few hours later, it falls off. Sometime later, 20 minutes or whatever, how long it takes to cook dinner, it bursts out of him. And then it runs away, and it's implied that...
Hello, my honey. Hello, my baby. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Um, check, please. We'll have the soup.
We'll have the soup.
Good call. Anyway,
Spaceballs reference.
right, and it takes some time for it to grow into the adult. In this, like, you have a face hugger grabs onto a guy, falls off in a matter of minutes, bursts out of him, and then, like, you can visually see it grow. Like, it bursts out of him, the chest burster, sits up, sprouts limbs, and then...
That was the part with the awkward puppet.
Yeah. And then you can see it, like, and then within, like, a minute or two, it's full grown. I mean, this thing grows fast. So, like, I mean, I can see why it needs to do that for the plot of this movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that so something. It would make sense to me anyway that if something's growing that fast, I would have written it so that the thing eats its host after it's born.
Right, because it would need the calories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. But anyway, so Michael Fassbender or David. Yeah. Michael Fassbender's not this psychotic. David. He's obsessed with creating life, so he engineers this alien and he perfects it, he says. Although I would argue that the original form is more efficient at killing.
Yeah,
but he makes it so that it requires a birth, like something needs to gestate inside a host, preferably a human, and then burst out of their midsection.
Yep.
Okay, and so that's his obsession with human life, and then so he uses Shaw as the first to do that because of his twisted love for her.
Right. And
so, like, it showed, like, they find her remains, like, tied down to this bed where, and then, like, chest all flayed open and everything. Yeah, and so that's sick and twisted, but that gets us from what we saw in Prometheus, which people didn't like because it wasn't the xenomorph we knew, to the xenomorph we knew.
Looking back on it, I think is why Prometheus was not called Alien.
Right.
They could have called it Alien Prometheus.
Right.
And I think that's part of why it wasn't called Alien anything, because the xenomorph wasn't in it as a proper xenomorph.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think...
Well, it makes sense now.
It makes sense now. And I think Alien Covenant actually improves Prometheus.
Yes.
It makes Prometheus a better movie because it answers questions.
Yep.
And so with prior knowledge, Prometheus would be a better movie.
Yeah.
I think. And I actually didn't totally dislike Prometheus. My problems
the way I
with
always
it's just kind of confusing in
the
places.
way I always explained it to people who ask, if I disliked or whatever is, I don't think Prometheus was a bad movie. It certainly had its problems, particularly with pacing.
Yeah.
And with pacing and stupid decisions by the crew members. Because I don't care if it's a creature you've never seen before, and so you don't know that it's as aggressive or whatever as it is. Just you're on an alien planet. Maybe don't put your face inches away from what is clearly a snake.
Right.
I don't put my face inches away from a snake on Earth. Why would I do it on an alien planet?
Yeah, and that happened again in Alien Covenant, but it was with a pod that released some this guy. It was one of the soldiers, not one of the scientists.
Yep. Yeah.
He leaned into this little pod to look at it, and he poked it, and some spores came out, and he breathed it in, and he was one of the first victims. And then there was two victims, was also one of the soldiers, but he had accidentally stepped on one and breathed it in, and didn't even know he stepped on it.
Well, no, he didn't breathe it in. It went in through his ear, remember?
Right, it went in through his ear canal.
Yep.
So, I mean, and then, this kind of ties into some of the reviews I've read, is it's getting pretty good critic reviews.
Yeah.
But it's getting pretty bad, normal, everyday people reviews.
Which is usually the case only with, those really, artsy films that no one wants to see.
Right. But this is not one of those. This is an alien movie. Yeah, and it's weird. And, people are talking, a lot of the reviews are based on things that would have been totally forgivable in movies some years ago. things that like now that Neil deGrasse Tyson is talking about the implausibility of some science fiction things, people will not forgive things in science fiction.
Thanks, Neil deGrasse Tyson. You ruined science fiction movies.
Yeah, way to go. But like I saw like several reviews on IMDb from user reviews that listed the things that were wrong they felt with the movie, and some were like these stupid things that people do, things that the characters do, and I would argue like you're coming at it from an outside view.
Yeah, you coming at it from the perspective of someone who knows how a xenomorph works.
You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
More or less, and you have hindsight, and like for instance, like the things that the stupid things that like the soldiers do are scientific based, and the stupid things the scientists do and engineers do are tactical based.
Yeah.
So if they had swapped places, these mistakes probably would have happened.
Well,
or might not have happened. But the thing is, some of the stupid things that like were listed, like so and so did whatever, were things like look, you like I am me, and my husband or wife is over there suffering from some unknown thing. I'm going to do what I can to try to help them.
Yeah.
And that they're calling these, that was stupid. I'm like, would you have can you honestly say that if you're put in that situation and your spouse is suffering, you wouldn't have done something?
So what was actually stupid was the other two bridge crew members giving the authorization override for Tennessee. That was stupid.
But that didn't affect anything.
It didn't. But Tennessee was the only one who had a spouse down on the planet that was still up on the ship.
Right, because the two other bridge officers were married.
Right.
Like, everyone in this movie is married to some other crew member.
Right. But yeah, so Tennessee was the pilot of the Covenant, of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only one who had their spouse planet side.
Yeah.
Right?
Of the people remaining on the Covenant,
yes. People remaining on the Covenant.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Because there were only three. There were only three remaining on the Covenant. They were all bridge. They were all bridge crew.
Two of them were married, and Tennessee's wife was down on the planet.
Right. So she is the pilot of the landing craft.
Right. Now, so his decisions to move the Covenant down, yes, it ultimately didn't affect anything, but that was stupid of him. I understand his wanting to do it, but what was stupid was the other two bridge crew, or that, it only took one of them, but the other bridge crew giving their authorization override to move the
so
ship.
Basically, if you haven't seen the movie, why are you listening to this? But if you haven't seen the movie, there's a storm in the atmosphere, and it's unsafe to move the Covenant, which has 2,000 people in cryosleep aboard it.
Yeah, all the colonists.
2,000 people in cryosleep. The Covenant safety measures will not, like Mother, we got Mother, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Mother will not allow the Covenant to move further down in the atmosphere to closer to the storm, because it's dangerous to the ship. And It takes two bridge officer command overrides to allow that to happen. And so they did, and they moved it down. Which brings me to one of the things that was a complaint. People were saying, well, you can hear the storm aboard the bridge of the Covenant, and you shouldn't be able to if they're in space. I'm like, no.
Because if it's vibrating the ship, you're going to hear the vibrations of the ship.
Well, no, first of all, they're not in space.
Oh, yeah, they're also not in space.
They mentioned bringing it down within, it was like 800 meters. Or 80 meters or something.
It was... I thought it was in kilometers, wasn't it? It was like 80 kilometers above the storm, wasn't it?
Okay, even still.
Yeah.
Think about it. Storms... I was looking this up because I was like, could they have been in the atmosphere? Storms hover about, on average, 6 kilometers above the surface.
Yeah.
The atmosphere goes 100 kilometers.
Yeah.
And they're below 80 kilometers above the storm. They're within the atmosphere.
Yeah.
They could hear it.
Yeah.
So that's not an argument.
But anyway, but like, what I did find stupid is, so not so much the fact that that one mercenary type got his face all close to what is very clearly a fungus pod.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they weren't all wearing masks when they went down, maybe not necessarily like full-on hazmat suits, but like you show up to an alien planet. If there's plant life, there is fungus life. Period.
Right.
And basically, no fungus is good to breathe in.
Yeah.
And they all fungal spores vary in they just vary in how dangerous they are to breathe in.
Yeah.
None of them are good.
Some of the things like the people are calling this a bad movie for is certain things, and that's one of them. And it's like, why don't you just send out the android and all this stuff? And the short answer is, you wouldn't have a movie.
Yeah.
If they did things right, you wouldn't have a movie. And people are fallible.
Fassbender's perfect though.
Yeah. David and Walter are. And like people make mistakes, and yeah, but you wouldn't have a movie. And years ago, people would just forgiven this stuff. It wouldn't have bothered them. Like,
yeah,
it's like, yes, people do stupid things, but that's how you progress movies. And it doesn't make it a bad movie that they went someplace and some alien planet and didn't have breath masks,
no,
or didn't send out the.
No, it doesn't make it a bad movie. And I agree that it's like, yeah, you need to have these mistakes made to have a plot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that, like, if you're gonna pick apart the movie, don't pick apart that some dude who doesn't know any better got his face very close to what is obviously a fungus pod. If you're gonna go to that level, go one step further and wonder why the hell they aren't wearing face masks.
Right.
That's the real question you should be asking.
Yeah. But some of the other things that people apparently think this movie like just shits on Prometheus. And I'm wondering, where were all the Prometheus fans when Prometheus came out?
Yeah, because I can tell you they weren't walking out of the theater with me.
Right. And
Yeah, I mean,
and it's like,
I
people
just
are
don't.
like,
I don't see how it shits on Prometheus.
their arguments is like, they didn't like that Shaw died. She had a reason for dying. Like, it was a purposeful death as far as the plot goes.
I would have been upset if she was still alive.
Right. And then the other thing they didn't like
I
is
mean,
that they go to
if Shaw was somehow still alive on a planet where they released what is supposed to be this, like planet-wide animal killing, sentient killing.
well, more than
virus
sentient,
bomb?
there are no animals on that planet.
Right. Yeah, if she were the sole alive person on this planet that's supposed to have been completely wiped out by this virus,
Mm-hmm.
or this spore or whatever, that would have been worse than her being dead by a lot. Just like from a storytelling
Right, and especially
standpoint.
since I can't imagine that she would have been okay at all with anything David was doing.
Yeah.
And so she would have tried to stop him,
Yep.
in which case David would have to kill her anyway.
Yep.
So it doesn't make sense that Shaw would be alive. The other thing is people are like, well, they introduced the engineers and they're so important apparently, and now they're completely extinct. I'm like, are you?
They're not.
They're not.
How many different ships that flew off in different directions at the end of Prometheus?
There's that, and the fact that this race is aggressively colonist. Like, they aggressively colonize planets. They wipe out life and then they colonize it. There's got to be many more planets.
Yeah.
With them living on it.
Was
Supposedly their home world,
right.
but
What I kind of wonder though, from that aspect, is why was there apparently no attempt made to retake this planet? I mean, maybe they haven't got word yet?
They either haven't gotten word or they've given it up for dead.
Because
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, seems to me that because I don't
know. I didn't even consider that.
It seems to me that the alien pestilence that was released on the planet shouldn't be that much of a concern to them, because they clearly have a way of handling that once they've wiped out life on a planet.
Right. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to colonize the planet.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I never even considered that.
But I mean, Yeah, I mean, people can sit there and pick apart the movie all they want, and it's always gonna have flaws. Alien had flaws. Aliens had flaws. Alien 3 had lots of flaws.
Yeah.
You know, they all have their problems. They all have their things that just don't make a whole lot of sense. You know,
right.
like, how is there so few people operating the colony on LV-426 when they have this massive nuclear power facility powering the?
Right. I don't remember how many families there were, but it was like 100 something. I don't even remember.
Yeah. I mean, so we're looking at like less than 1,000 people on LV-426, and there's, just to give you an idea, I think there was like 8,000 people who manned the power plant at Chernobyl and Pripyat.
Yeah. Well, movies are bad with numbers. We've already figured that out. Like remember we saw, if we looked at the statistics given to us in Dread about the crime problem, like, wow, Mega City 1's doing pretty good because it's lower than America's average crime rate.
It's actually, I think, wasn't it lower than like the lowest crime rate in the world or something? Or?
Yeah, it was like
it was really low.
It was actually
capita.
pretty low per capita. Like, the numbers look impressive, but then when you look at like actual crime rate numbers from around the world, it's pretty good.
Well, and like, I mean, the number of clones in Episode 2 doesn't make any sense to fight the Clone Wars with. Movies are bad with numbers, but you could sit there and pick apart the movie till the cows come home, but it doesn't stop. It is a good movie, and I think people just want to pick it apart because they want to sound like
I've noticed you have two problems with diehard fans. They'll either forgive anything because they love it so much, or
which is how we get fans of Alien 3,
or it needs to be absolutely perfect, in which case they're completely unforgiving. Which is how so many Star Wars fans hate the prequels.
Yeah.
And if you look back at the original trilogy, there's a lot of problems with the original trilogy.
There's a lot of problems, particularly with a new.
You'll never find bigger Star Wars fans than either of us, but there are problems with those movies.
Yeah, but the
movie I can overlook so much because they're so good otherwise.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing with this movie. There's not even that much that needs to be overlooked.
Honestly, like the one legitimately, I don't want to say bad, but not good thing about the movie is it was fairly predictable.
Yeah, we were sitting there like we're calling things,
we were
like we knew instantly that at the end that was David and not Walter.
Yeah,
that was obvious, and I don't know if the movie was even trying to hide that.
Yeah.
Something I saw I've seen a few people like, how are people not unnerved by David, and how are, like, when he cuts his hair so he looks like Walter, how is that not a red flag? And I'm like, first of all, these people have no concept that an android could possibly do them any harm.
Right.
Androids have been, as far as they're concerned, are nothing but helpful, friendly servants.
Yep. None of them have met David.
None of them have met David.
David was one of a kind, wasn't he, in Prometheus? Because he was Wayland's personal assistant?
Yes.
Is Wayland's personal not bodyguard, android?
Right.
I prefer a synthetic human.
No, I think there must have been more like him because there was enough to change a whole generation.
Yeah, that's true.
That Walter mentions that. But these people have no idea that an android could even lie to them. So when the captain, I remember Billy Crudup's character, he comes across the eggs and David's like, they're perfectly safe. Go ahead.
He's like, oh, okay.
Okay. He approaches one and touches it, and there's people like, why would? First of all, you don't know what that is. So, I mean, to me, that's a reason not to touch it.
Yeah.
But he has no
specific reason to be suspicious or
to be afraid. And then when an android tells him it's safe, he automatically believes because he has no concept of an android being able to lie.
See, yeah, my mind goes the other way. It's like, so he's like, well, I have no reason to believe it's dangerous. My mind is, I have no reason to believe it's safe.
Right. So, I don't touch things I'm unaware, especially things that look that gross. But still, like,
Man, I hope the mics are picking up all these chair squeaks, Nolan.
You got a squeaky chair.
Yeah, I do. It's a comfortable chair.
Yeah. Anyway, so the argument that they should be wary of David is like it doesn't occur to them that they should be because they can't comprehend of an android being dangerous.
Right.
I mean, as fans of the movies, we know that they are because we have. I mean, the first android we've ever encountered, Ash, tries to kill Ripley.
Right.
Bishop
was a cool guy, though.
Bishop was a cool guy. And then
so we're 50% on androids, right? Being cool guys.
Let's see. So we have Walter, who's a cool guy. David, who's not. Ash is a cool guy.
You mean
Ash is not, but Bishop's a cool guy. And then the one from Alien Resurrection, what's her face? She was a good android.
Yeah, that's implying we count Alien Resurrection in anything.
Right.
It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
That is legitimately a bad movie.
Yeah, that's my lowest Alien movie.
Yeah.
Even if it does have Ron Perlman in it.
Yep.
And it is the most, well, yeah, it might be the most action-packed one.
That was the one that had the alien get sucked through a little hole in the window?
Yeah.
At the end of it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That Delta P. But yeah, it's... Yeah.
One thing I kind of appreciate is that in Alien Covenant is when they open that hangar door and like the air gets blown off, it doesn't take that long for the air to go out and then it's still.
Right.
It's not just a continual like air just blowing out. It's like air goes out like a puff. It's enough to force the alien out. And then it's still after that.
Right. And the air all crystallizes.
Yeah.
Although that crystallized air should have had more momentum and just kept floating off to the vacuum, but then we're back to nitpicking.
Yeah. But there was some cool stuff in there. I liked when they were like herding the alien towards the hangar.
Yeah, that cool.
felt much like in the original. And then I liked in the end because like there's this callback when David goes into the storage where all the colonists are in cryosleep, and there's 2,000 colonists in there, and he's like, "Mother, play Wagner's The Gods Enter Valhalla" or whatever.
Enter the gods into Valhalla or whatever.
Right, and that was a callback to the beginning of the movie because the movie opens with David and Waylon.
Yeah, and
Guy Pearce reprising his role as Waylon.
Yeah, and he asks David to play him a song. He says something by Wagner. He lets David pick.
Yeah, he says dealer's choice or whatever.
Yeah.
And then so it was sort of a callback to that, and then it was apropos for him now, like he's this self-styled god,
which is the most interesting thing to me. Is like, so I'm a huge sucker for anything cyberpunk.
Uh-huh.
And like one of the like the key things in cyberpunk is discussing a lot of the moralities involving artificial intelligence. You know, as far as like, when you make something that is truly intelligent and it's self-aware, at what point are you not being a god to this thing? And so, it delves more. Cyberpunk tends to delve more into things like artificial intelligence servant slavery if they're self-aware, things like that. But what's interesting to me is, so in an attempt to find God, because Waylon's obsessed with discovering where humans came from. Right. So basically, he's trying to, on a philosophical level, find God, right?
Which leads him back to the engineers.
Which ultimately leads him back to the engineers. But so he plays God, makes an android, an artificially intelligent android, who in turn plays God and creates the xenomorph.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, that's kind of cool. The movies are definitely more. These first two movies here in the arc are definitely more cerebral than previous Alien movies.
Yep. There's a lot of questions on morality.
Okay. So from where this movie ends off, though, we need to still get to the beginning of Alien.
We need to get to LV-426.
And my prediction is that David is going to turn all these colonists into aliens, or at least some of them, because the rest will become food or something. Right?
Yeah, probably.
So anyway, he's gonna make xenomorphs out of these 2002 colonists, because there's 2 survivors from the Covenant crew.
Well, yeah, but they lost some of the colonists.
Oh yeah,
too.
they lost some of the colonists in that incident. But there's almost 2,000 people aboard that ship.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna take that to an engineer planet, and that the xenomorphs are gonna run rampant on this planet. At some point, though, a ship is going to attempt an escape, and there will be a facehugger aboard that ship. At least one.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a couple, because you need one to be a drone and one to be a queen. Right?
Yeah.
So that's going to kill the pilot, and that ship's going to crash in LV-426. So that's where we'll get the pilot with the burst open chest aboard the derelict craft in LV-426.
Will be a queen.
Or it could be a drone, and another crew member could be a queen.
Right. It's going to lay all those eggs and then starve.
Yeah, it's going to lay all those eggs, and they're going to starve to death. So because we're going to have a cavern full of hundreds of eggs beneath the derelict. And then, and we're gonna have to get to that point, and that's my prediction for how that's gonna happen.
Right.
And that might not be in the next movie. That might be in the movie following. We don't know. It all depends on how well these movies do. And
it doesn't feel like there's enough between. Like, it doesn't feel like they have far enough to go from Alien Covenant to Alien to warrant more than one more movie.
Right.
I really, if they stretch it into more than one more movie, I really foresee it just feeling
like too much.
Too much.
I would agree. I would say that one more movie is what they need to do.
We're gonna have a Hobbit situation on our hands, where there's just not enough material to stretch into that many movies.
And I would say, because like right now, I think Ridley Scott is saying 2 more movies. But I would say after this, depending on how well this movie does, it might not do well enough to warrant 2 more movies, and we might get Fox to greenlight 1.
Yeah.
In which case, that script that is apparently already written, but they haven't started filming on yet, would need to be rewritten to get us to the beginning of Alien. Because Ridley Scott he knows we need to wind up with Alien.
We need to wind up with a thing. Is we don't even need to see what happens to that ship that specifically that crashes on LV-426. We just need to know that this ship is the ship that crashes on LV-426.
Right, and it could be like, it could be a sequence of just like ships scattering to the wind, right? And you have this one go off, and then you have like the pilot getting in the seat and everything, and then like you see like this facehugger climb over the back of his chair or something,
and then hard cut to credits.
And then we're like, oh,
fade to black.
That's that ship.
Yeah.
And people can put 2 together, and that's that ship. And so, like, because I think the way Ridley Scott put it is, the movies will culminate in coming in through the back door to Alien.
Right.
Is, I think, the words he used. So something's going to wind up with that derelict.
So I can fill in gaps in my head as far as like honestly, Alien Covenant could be the last one, and
I just dropped my phone and
made a nice loud noise.
Yeah, it did.
Alien Covenant could be the last one, and I'd be fairly content with that, just because it's like, again, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of gap, and we might be wrong. There might be a lot that Ridley Scott wants to put in there, but to me,
it probably is.
To me, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot to go to get from the end of Alien Covenant to crash space jockey ship in LV-426.
I would like one more movie.
Right. Well,
I don't need more than that.
Right. Well, hold on. I mean, I was saying it could end there, and I'd be content with that.
Yeah. You can even cover it in like a comic book or something.
Right. Now, what I wonder though, if David made the xenomorph, because we always assumed that in Aliens, the reason the company I hate
Wayland?
No, the company man on
Gorman?
Sulaco,
Gorman. Yeah. Paul Reiser.
Yeah. So the reason Gorman was so keen on capturing a xenomorph, we always assumed is because Wei-Yu knew about the xenomorph incident, had data from the Nostromo about it, and wanted to capture one to weaponize it. We always assumed that was the case. What if Wei-Yu knew about the xenomorph, and when the Nostromo flight data came back, went, holy crap, we found it. Because David made it. And so the company knows about the xenomorph, and just the incident of the Nostromo is the company going, we finally found it.
Yeah. That's
not a matter of like, wow, this thing killed off this whole crew. We should capture it because we can use this as a weapon. But rather, we already knew about it.
That actually
finally found it.
Makes a lot of sense, because one thing it doesn't make, like in Alien, so it receives this distress signal from the derelict ship, and protocol is when you receive an unknown signal, you go and investigate. Who knows what it is?
Right.
And so Mother wakes up the crew and diverts course of the Nostromo to LV-426 because it's nearby.
Right. And
so they land, they get the alien and everything, and then now Ash, who is secretly an android, nobody on the crew knows.
Right.
And I would assume also that every company-owned ship has an android on that the crew is unaware of, to spy on them.
Right.
And just to make sure that they're doing what they should be doing.
Right.
Because you send a crew out into space for months at a time, years at a time, who knows?
They're months. Like, just calling them takes months. Sending communication takes months or years.
Right. So he and he's told to bring this thing back. Like, why would they want it? You know, and it's like, he's so dead set on bringing this thing back. Why would they want it? But if the company knew what it was,
so
then that makes sense.
What if, like, that's why Mother is programmed with that protocol to divert course and go and investigate, wake the crew up, because they're looking for it.
Right.
And the same thing with why the android would be so hard set on capturing this thing that is, by all accounts, completely uncontrollable.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that kind of makes a little more sense if that's the case there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and so if Gorman had orders to bring that thing back...
Right.
And not, like, based on his own, like, oh, I could sell this to the company and make money. It's like, Gorman, go get this thing, or you're fired, but we'll give you a bonus if you do.
Yeah.
Or something. You'll get hazard pay. You know, bring these Marines, the real tough hombres, by Gorman's own words.
Tough hombres. Bug stompers.
You know, I saw like, for some reason people just assume that Ridley Scott doesn't like Aliens, like the movie Aliens, not Aliens in general. But he said, I saw like on several quotes where he said that Aliens is the best sequel that it could possibly have been made.
Yeah.
About Alien, and he thought it was he says it's a very good movie, and James Cameron made the correct decision in not trying to make a horror movie because we've seen it.
Yeah.
We're not scared of it anymore.
Right.
So you make an action movie. You make it a totally different genre.
Yep.
And it's a very good movie.
It's still a very tense movie, though.
Right. Well, the thing is, he liked it well enough that that game Colonial Marines is based off a rough draft of a sequel script that Ridley Scott had written.
A
rough draft. He'd written a rough draft. And never did anything with it.
Is Colonial Marines in the canon of the series?
I don't know what they count as canon anymore.
Because
as far as that goes,
holy damn, that was a bad game.
Yeah.
That was a bad game.
Like Alien Isolation, though.
Yeah.
But
Creative Assembly can do no wrong, though.
yeah.
But anyway, I just thought of something, though. So if that's the case of, the company knows about the xenomorph, no one else does. What's with the line in Aliens of, is this just going to be another bug hunt? Because it kind of implies that they're hunting for these things.
Yeah, well, I always took that to mean that they'd encountered insectoid life before on other planets, not xenomorphs, though.
Okay.
Like, they don't know what the xenomorph is, but they'd encountered insectoid life. And James, I think it was somebody mentioned, it might have been James Cameron admitting it himself, that was kind of a reference to Starship Troopers.
Okay.
Since so much
the
book, obviously the movie
was not out yet.
The movie had another 10 years to come out or something.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was, several years anyway. Because Aliens was like 87, I think, and then Starship Troopers was like 90. I don't know, mid 90s.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but I mean, because all military sci-fi is referential to Starship Troopers.
Yeah, because Heinlein basically invented that.
Yeah, he invented the genre. So basically, 100% of military sci-fi harkens back to Starship Troopers in some way. They pay homage to it in some way.
Yeah, it's pretty common.
Yeah.
So I had always heard that was meant to be a reference to Starship Troopers. And they also mentioned some other alien species that are so androgynous it doesn't matter if you're having sex with a male or a female. I can't remember that.
Oh yeah.
So apparently they've encountered some other alien species, although it's never implied in any other movie that humans have encountered any other alien species.
Right.
And so there's only like 3 alien, like known alien species referenced in like any other alien movie. But we have humans and we have the engineers and then we have the xenomorphs. Space jockeys and the xenomorphs.
There'll always be space jockeys.
There'll always be space jockeys.
Yep.
So, I don't know, I think we've pretty much exhausted this.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, go see it if you haven't.
Yep. And if you haven't, we've probably spoiled quite a bit for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
not that you can't call a lot of the things a mile away like we did. But
yeah, and like I said, it's not a perfect film.
Nope.
But no film is. Very few films are anyway.
Mad Max Fury Road is a perfect film.
Yeah. But it's basically what I wanted out of the movie.
Yeah. No, I mean I was satisfied with it.
Yeah.
Other than the nitpicking of the guns, but I always nitpick guns in movies.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, yeah, it was a very excellent movie. Looked good. Very pretty movie. The effects were really good. Michael Fassbender steals every scene he's in.
Yeah, he is the best actor in the cast.
Yep.
And he's always been great and everything. Oh, I didn't realize he's in 300. He's the guy that goes, "Then we'll fight in the shade." He's that guy.
Oh, that was Fassbender?
That was Fassbender.
All right.
I didn't realize it until just recently. Anyway, so that was our first episode of
The Everything is Bad. Was it The Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, New Fangled Picture Show. And so our next probably be Pirates of the Caribbean 5. What's it? On Stranger Tides. That was the subtitle.
Pirates of the Caribbean 5. Spanish Antagonist.
Yeah.
I think is the official subtitle.
Yes.
The one with the Spanish antagonist.
Right.
I think is the official subtitle of that next Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yeah, that'll likely be our next one, so look for that next week. And thanks for joining us.